Visual assignment. The short story Maison the Fanatic, written by the British author Hanif Kureishi, was first published in The New Yorker in 1994 and reprinted in 1997 in Kureishi's collection of short stories called Love in a Blue Time. The short story deals with the generation gap as one of its main themes, since it's a conflict which frequently occurs in immigrant families. The story is about Parvez, an immigrant who lives in Britain with his son Ali. Formerly, they had a connection, leading to Parvez worrying when the boy begins to change. In the beginning, Parvez does not talk to his colleagues about this problem, but finally he speaks up about this, and the conclusion is that Ali is on drugs. Parvez observes his son since his friend Bettina tells him that this is the right way to handle the situation. And instead he notices how Ali is praying 5 times a day and growing a beard. He tries to talk to his son about this, but without luck. He is met with criticism against the Western culture. Parvez tries to convince his son of this culture, but his disrespectfulness is too much for Ali, and he acts aggressively against Bettina. Therefore, under the influence of alcohol, Parvez beats up his son, leading to Ali's only react, who is the fanatic now. In this story, the setting is a middle-class suburb residential area where you have to put in hard work for achieving anything, which is seen in the sentence he had explained to Ali that for years he had worked for more than 10 hours a day. There's 2 main characters in the story whose relationship is what we as readers have to interpret from the story. Parvez, the father, and Ali, the son, are described without much detail. None of their exact ages are determined, but Parvez, having lived in England for 20 years at least, working as a taxi driver in that period of time, must be of an older age, where Ali is described as a teenager. They are Punjabis, as seen in the sentence. Like him, most of the other drivers were Punjabis. Being Punjabi means that they are part of the Indo-Aryan ethnic group from South Asia. The son, Ali, was a brilliant student, getting straight A's and having several friends, but he took his religion too far. In relation to the relationship between the father and the son, the story tells us how they used to have a strong connection and mutual trust to each other, but Parvez begins to worry about Ali due to change in his behavior. When speaking to his friends/colleagues about it, the conclusion is that Ali is doing drugs and therefore he's acting up. Parvez's good friend Bettina tells him to observe his son, and therefore Parvez notices how Ali is praying 5 times a day and growing a beard. Since it's a big change in his behavior, Parvez invites his son out for dinner, wanting to talk to him about this change. Here, things begin to get more and more tense between the father and the son, since Parvez, in Ali's point of view, is showing zero respect towards the Quran and drinks too much. Ali, continuing to be angry due to Parvez's disrespectfulness towards the Quran, doesn't want to listen when Parvez tries to convince him of another belief and that the British culture is okay. The relationship in the story becomes bitter and the 2 can no longer relate to each other. Parvez is presented as a character who's having an internal conflict with the way his son is changing, developing and overall behaving. It is difficult for Parvez to come to terms with the fact that his son is no longer just a faithful copy of him. Still, the conflict in the story is between Parvez and Ali's perspective on life, which doesn't correlate as well. It's an external conflict between Parvez and Ali. The language in the short story is tremendously simple, making it easy to understand. With there being several conversations in the story, it is seen how the language is informal. Presented in the short story is themes such as identity and the father-son relationship. There's also religion, integration, and respect. As seen in the former mentioned subject, the father and son relationship, it is presented in the story how cultural differences can challenge even the firmest relationships, which is the conflict that takes place between Parvez and Ali. In terms of identity, Parvez does not follow any religion, therefore it is strenuous for him to understand why Ali must begin to follow a Muslim faith. The father and the son live their lives according to their own beliefs, and since these beliefs are different from one another, it is the root to a various number of discussions, fighting for the different identities, and not embracing new cultures. It's not straightforwardly expressed what Kureishi's message with the story is. However, as written before, it is clear how the conflict between Parvez and Ali is caused by the fact that cultural differences challenge relationships more than anything else. The generation gap and hereby conflicts between generations are also represented as a message to the reader in the story. Parvez, working hard every day to be able to provide his son with everything he must need, He wants his son to have the life he was never able to get himself. However, Ali's behavior suddenly changes and he's no longer a prime example of his father's wishes and intuitions. And they may not agree with each other ever. In relation to the theme, related to the themes are, for example, the text The Pioneers by Carol Phillips, since the reader is being presented a true form of multiculturalism where it is experienced very different from, respectively, Parvez and Ali. Parvez is seeing Britain as being the right form of multicultural, where the society has a common culture that is being composed of an amalgam of the interests and origins of its constituent members. Oppositely, Ali is experiencing Britain as a society that is composed by many different cultures, all living side by side, where he does not feel like he belongs to the right society, and in his opinion, the Western culture is a corruption. And these are the two definitions of Carol Phillips' text. However, Phillips' story is more of a factual telling than a fictional story. In conclusion, the thesis statement being the short story deals with the generation gap as one of its main themes, since it's a conflict which frequently occurs in immigrant families, definitely points out what the main problem is in this relationship. The father and the son refuse to accept or at least understand each other, making every discussion more complicated and leading to this terrific ending. Also, the main points of this analysis helps us as the readers to reach an understanding of the story and how we are supposed to read it.